Snow White. Once upon a time, a queen had a baby girl who was white as snow. People called the queen's daughter Snow White. Sadly, the queen soon after died. The king then found a new wife. She was very beautiful, but her heart was not. The queen had a magic mirror. She always stood in front of the mirror and asked,
"Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most beautiful of all?"
The mirror always answered,
"You are the most beautiful of all."
The queen was happy to hear this. As time passed, Snow White grew up. She became very beautiful. One day, the queen asked the mirror,
"Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most beautiful of all?"
You are beautiful, but Snow White is more beautiful than you.
The queen got very angry. She ordered a hunter to kill Snow White. But the hunter couldn't kill her.
"Princess, run away and hide from the queen."
Snow White ran away deep into the forest. There, she found a small cottage.
"Is there anyone here?"
She slowly opened the door. There was no one inside the cottage. Snow White was very hungry and tired. She ate the food on the table and fell asleep on the bed. When evening came, the 7 dwarfs returned to their cottage. "Hey, someone came to our house."
They ate our food.
Then the 7 dwarfs saw Snow White sleeping on one of their beds. The dwarfs whispered to each other.
"Who is she? Why is she here?"
They decided to take her in. From that day on, Snow White lived with the 7 dwarfs. Meanwhile, the queen asked the mirror once again,
"Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most beautiful of all?"
You are beautiful, but Snow White, who is in the forest, is more beautiful than you.
The queen became very angry and went into the forest to find Snow White. The queen dressed up as a ribbon merchant.
"Young lady, why don't you try this on?"
Snow White tried on the ribbon. The queen tied the ribbon so tightly that Snow White fainted. The 7 dwarfs were very surprised when they came home. They quickly loosened the ribbon. Luckily, Snow White soon began to breathe again. The queen heard that Snow White was still alive. She dressed up as a comb merchant.
"Young lady, if you use this comb, your hair will become shiny."
The queen brushed Snow White's hair with the poisoned comb. Then, Snow White fainted. When the dwarves came back home, they pulled the poisoned comb from her hair. Snow White woke up again. The queen went back to the palace and asked the mirror again,
"Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most beautiful of all?"
You are beautiful, queen, but Snow White is much more beautiful than you.
The queen got very angry at the mirror's reply. So this time, the queen put poison in an apple. The next day, the queen went to Snow White.
"Apples! Buy fresh apples! Young lady, have an apple. I'll eat this part of the apple, and you can eat the other."
The queen bit a piece of the apple. Only one side of the apple had poison. Snow White then took a bite from the other side of the apple. And then Snow White fainted again. When the dwarfs came back home, they tried to wake Snow White. But Snow White didn't wake up. The 7 dwarfs placed Snow White in a glass box. They kept watching over her day and night. One day, a prince saw the glass box. He fell in love with Snow White.
Please, let me have this glass box.
The prince asked the 7 dwarfs. The prince's servants carried the glass box, but one of the servants fell down, and the glass box shook. Just then, the piece of the poisoned apple came out of Snow White's throat. She took a deep breath. When Snow White woke up, everyone jumped with joy. Soon, Snow White and the prince were married. Snow White, the prince, and the 7 dwarfs lived happily ever after.
Order.
Order.
Mirror.
Mirror.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Hunter.
Hunter.
Apple.
Apple.
Dwarf.
Dwarf.
Mary.
Mary.
Bed.
Bed.
Asleep.
Asleep.